You know, as the always saying, Mondays are the most boring days starting the week. But however, here in DWZ, we like to keep things a little more fun for everybody so it doesn't get boring. So we're going to be reviewing some events starting from this month of March. We got ICW No Holds Bars with Pitfighter 15 with the ultimate the Ultraviolent Vortex, which is an event that they normally do where nobody knows what the card is gonna be. And of course, we got two shows in the same week. We have GCW with a an eye for an eye, where of course Nick Gage puts his GCW World Title on the line against Masha Slamovich, and then GCW heads towards Toronto for worse behavior. We may see some wrestlers that are participants of the IWS, and then finally we ended with AEW Dark Elevation, and I believe we have 9 matches. And of course, we got some news updates to tell about what's been going on in pro wrestling. As you know, we're getting closer and closer to WrestleMania week. There's still some stuff they still yet to announce, but luckily we'll be doing that today. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I'm your host, J Rod here. So, let's begin with ICW No Holds Barred with Pitfighter 15 Ultraviolent Vortex. This took place on the 11th of March. Now, those who aren't familiarized, the pit fighter is more like just a pit where it's like either a cage or whatever. You're inside. There's no wrestling ring whatsoever. But the ultimate vortex is more of a, let's just say that you don't know who your opponent's going to be or who the fans are going to expect to be in there. It's been done before, but it's kind of interesting. So let's get started. Our first match, we have Akira, and his opponent was, of course, Hardway Heater. Now I don't know who this Hardway Heater is, but of course I'm a big fan of Akira. You know, he's one of those wrestlers I enjoyed, and I figured he was gonna win this match, but he pulled off an amazing submission to pick up the victory. So he won, and that's one Vortex done. Next we have uh, M- uh, MM3 versus Sean Campbell. Now, don't know much about Sean Campbell. I have seen MM3 on on H2O, but Sean Campbell was really really good. But the real thing was, from what I can see in this match, he's a bit of a cocky kid, but um, I think with this it showed. Excuse me. I think it showed that he was willing to great lengths to pick up his victory. But, however, MM3 won by applying a spinning heel kick right in the face. One, two, three, it's done. However, MM3 gave an amazing promo, giving a lot of props to Sean Campbell. Now, Sean Campbell doesn't have much experience in death matches, but he seems like he's learning because he has two mentors by his side. One of them is, of course, Akira, who we saw earlier. Next up, we got a bit of a Haas fight here, taking on. We have Noah Haasman taking on Hoodfoot. I knew this was going to be a Haas fight because of these two sides. It was going to be amazing, but I never seen this guy Noah Haasman before. I mean, I am familiarized with Hoodfoot, but luckily Hoodfoot picked up a really good win when he applied the backdrop driver. One, two, three. Good night. Just like that. Now, we see a pair of girls call themselves the Goons or something like that. I forgot. apparently one of them is going to challenge the founder of ICW, Danny DeMonto. So basically, DeMonto wasn't too fit the idea of having women him he wrestle. I mean, there have been female wrestlers that wrestled, but for him to do it, I don't think so. But um, one of them was Lizzie Blair. Oh my God, she took a lot of beating, but she refused to quit. That is one of the things I like about these type of stories where you have like someone who seems like she's gonna lose, but she refuses to stay down no matter what. But Danny DeMonto won by pinfall when he took both the goons down, and boom, just like that. And I'm sure that we will see them back after this match. I think it's gonna be great. So I think that's pretty much it for this match. So let's move on to the next. We have Chris Bradley versus Tommy Vendetta. I have to say, pretty good match. I've seen Chris Bradley many times with H2O and ICW. Um, he's a big dude, but Tommy Vendetta, he is a guy who I've seen many times over in death matches from any promotion that involves him. But it was Tommy with the cannonball on through the door. He had, of course, Chris Bradley like in the backpack style on his back, and cannonball right there, just like that. It was over, but the door has some barbed wires. It was over right from there. Next up, we got Christian Ross taking on Tank. Uh, I thought this match was insane, but it was Tank who picked up the win when he applied a flatliner onto the ladder to Ross, and it was done just like that. Now, our main event features Matt Tremont. You may know him as one of the from GCW and his own promotion, H2O. We didn't know who his opponent was until this weird bunny shows up called Bob the Wired Bunny, and it turned out to be none other than John Wayne Murdoch, most predictable person in ICW. But Tremont refuses to quit, refuses to stay down until he applied the Death Valley driver through a table on the Duke. 1, 2, 3, of course. The bulldozer won, just like that. There is another GCW event, but I will do that. ICW event, but I will do that at another time. But right now, let's just move forward with, of course, GCW. Okie dokie. So let's get started with GCW Eye for an Eye. This one is in their New York show, and I think this one was on the 17th of March. Was I think Friday, I believe. Yes, it was on a Friday. So anyway, it opened up with, of course, like always, a scramble match. We have Jimmy Lloyd versus Yo-Ya versus Steve Scott versus Starboy Charlie versus Alec Price versus Cole Radrick. Now, we all know in these type of matches, anything could happen. Anybody could win at any given moment in any possibility way because you lose track with 6 wrestlers in one ring. Now, did I had any specifics who was going to win? Well, I did have kind of maybe 2, either Alec Price or Cole Radrick. Those were my obvious choices. But was I right? Possibly, yeah. But it was a pretty good match. It was Cole Radrick who picked up the win on Steve Scott. A little selfie guy really got himself in this one, but nonetheless, Cole Radrick won. Next up, we have Jack Cartwheel versus Blake Christian. Now, we all know Blake Christian, what he's all about, being, the total a-hole he's becoming, without care in the world, making these unnecessary attacks after his winnings. But I have to say, Jack Cartwheel put up a good effort until finally Blake Christian took an opportunity by low blowing Jack without the ref noticing it, but also in the process, the stomp, and that was it. But however, little interesting thing, there was no attack in this one. Jack Cartwheel just left just like that. But hopefully, Jack will get his revenge against him at some point. Now, our next match, we have Willie Mack making his presence, taking on the biggest a-hole in GCW. We're talking about Tony Depp, and yes, you guys know that he is a big a-hole. We know he's talented, but he doesn't play by anybody's rules. You probably would have assumed anything, but it was a spinning. No, it was like a somewhat of a shining wizard, but in the back of the head of Willie Mack that sealed the deal. I thought it was very interesting, but yeah, Tony Deppen won, the biggest a-hole. Now we know who. Matt effin Cardona showed up. And I'm sure everybody's not there or not happy to see him. The so-called king of the death matches, the indie king of the indies, whatever I call him. You know, he needs to shut up. He takes on Legend Homicide. I have to say, it was pretty fun. You probably would have assumed that people would have said, Homicide's gonna kill you. But it would have been that way until we saw a very unusual person showed up, giving Cardona the helping hand. And we're talking about Steph DeLanders, until Cardona, when the referee was distracted, decided to low blow Homicide. And now he's probably going to brag, I defeated a legend. Well, one way or the other, Homicide will get his payback. But we'll see. Now, our next match is a very interesting tag match. We have Los Macizos, Miedo Extremo and Ciclope, taking on Rina Yamashita and Sawyer Wreck. I think this is the first time those two have ever teamed up. I mean, I know Rina Yamashita has done tag teams throughout her career, but first time with Sawyer Wreck, that's a different thing. I mean, these two ladies are into death matches. You probably would assume it would have been one hell of a match regardless. It did. I mean, you had all kinds of toys there, chairs, glass, tables, whatever. But in this case, it was an air raid crash that by Yamashita all the way to Medio Extremo that picked up the win. So I thought it was a very impressive win by both Sawyer Wreck and Rina. I wouldn't be surprised if those two continue to team up. But yes, nonetheless, it was a good match. Our next one, we have a four-way tag team match. Team number one, we have Jay Lyons and Midas Black, better known as the main event. We have Dylan McKay and Marcus Mathers, Wasted Youth. We have Bussy, Alley Catch, and Effie. And then finally, Second Gear Crew, one called Manders, and the Southern Psycho Manslaughter Man. This was one chaotic match between, all four teams are incredible. Not gonna lie about that. But there can only be one team that can surpass. I wasn't too sure about this one. But, however, it was Bussy that picked up the win when Bussy applied a avalanche Zack Ryder onto Mathers, and right there it was one. I have to say, pretty good tag match. I like this one. Now our next match, we have Bandito taking on Gringo Loco. I thought this match was pretty good. Now Gringo Loco has been known to take on the best luchadors that the world has to offer, but he has to go through one of the best wrestlers and one of the most well-recognized wrestlers all over the world, Bandito. But it was a surprise pinfall that picked up the win. I think Bandito couldn't be surprised, was in shock that he lost in the fashion he thought that he kicked out, but no. Gringo couldn't even believe it that he won. But yeah, that's how it rolls. Our next match, we have, of course, the GCW Extreme title. We have Grim Reaper taking on Joey Janela. I thought this match was insane, really amazing, but it was Joey Janela with the double stomp with the chair onto Grim Reaper to allow the match. But he did a fantastic promo, talking that this guy never gave up. He was telling how much he was the last of a breed of wrestlers that either died out or retired, that sort of thing. And of course, he gave him his mad respects. But however, that little moment was ruined by that SOB, sick of a twisted person, Charles Mason, and his mercenary Paro, who, we know this kind of thing that Charles Mason, he thinks this kind of crap that Joey Janela was talking about is more like, is full of shit. Joe Janela, you know it's a lie. So that's how he preys on his victims. So the obvious thing is he now targeting Grim Reaper to prove once again why that everything that Joe Janela is full of crap? Well, we don't know. Hopefully the next event will tell us. Now our next match we have tag team action, which is we have the Time Splitters consisted of Alex Shelley and Kushida taking on Jordan Oliver and Mike Bailey. I thought this was also another impressive match. Now, the last time Jordan Oliver and Mike Bailey, they were on opposite sides. This was more like a Team Canada versus Team USA during the IWS versus GCW thing. But nonetheless, this Time Splitters never uh, ceased to amaze me. They picked up the win when they applied the I-94 onto Oliver. 1, 2, 3. Adios. Now our next match we have is our main event, the GCW World Title. We have Masha Slamovich taking on Nick Gage. Now you know Nick Gage would do anything to destroy Masha Slamovich, but you know Masha, has the attitude like doesn't know the word quit. But oh my goodness, neither is Nick Gage. I mean, Nick Gage is also in that type of predicament. He refuses to quit, but however, he ended up in the end by a chokehold. He did not tap out. It was done by referee's discretion. So Masha won in that fashion and became our brand new GCW World Champion. However, who will be the next person to challenge her? Well, I do know one person would stop at nothing to grab what he wants, and that is, of course, Blake Christian. But we'll see what happens when that day comes. But right now, let's move on to the next show, Worst Behavior. Okay, now we have GCW Worst Behavior. Their show took place on the 19th of March in Toronto, Canada. So, yeah, this is like right after they did their IWS versus GCW on FN Sanction. I have to say it's some pretty good match. However, there was certain changes in the main event. It was supposed to be Masha Slamovich versus Mike Bailey, a straight up match. However, it was later changed into a world title match since Masha defeated Nick Gage. So I thought it was a perfect opportunity for now to see Mike Bailey. If he could have what it takes to take on Masha, well, we'll see about that. But let's move on. Originally, this match was our first opening match was supposed to be a 5-way scramble match. We have Big Vin versus Michael Richard Blaze versus Juan Call Manders versus Starboy Charlie versus Alex Price. However, Blake Christian decided to insert himself and turn this into a 6-way. I don't know what's the purpose, but I don't know. I have this distinct feeling that he's trying to get well recognized so can he have another opportunity to get his hands on the one title he desires, which is the GCW World Title. So we'll see when we get there. But you probably would have guessed it as a fan that Blake Christian was going to take this one when he applied a stomp on Blaze, and that kind of did. You know, I mean, Blake Christian, he's an opportunist. He would do whatever it takes to go to the top regardless. Now, our next match, we have a definite tag match. We have Wasted Youth, Dylan McKay, and Marcus Mathers taking on the East West Express. You probably would have thought it was also a good match in this one. I mean, there were moments where we almost saw a double cloud counter, but it was countered. I have to say they did a pretty good job countering that, but however, it took a bit of a while until they applied another double cloud cutter onto Matters, and boom, giving the East West Express, as you know, they are the current number one contenders for the GCW World Tag Team title. So we'll be seeing that at some point, but right now let's move on. Next match, we have Benjamin Tillman versus Joey Janela. You probably would have assumed this is one of those matches that will be involved with the GCW title. No, it was a non-title match, but Joey Janela has always continues to reign supreme as he's always been. He picked up the win by applying another double stomp with the chair. 1, 2, 3, it was over right from there. Next up, always ready, Matt Cardona showed up taking on Sexy Eddie. Now, from what the commentators were saying, Matt Cardona was taking on social media saying negative comments about Sexy Eddie. But Sexy Eddie, as you probably would have known, I thought this match was going to be interesting, but it was really kind of bizarre because uh, Sexy Eddie had no clothes on. Basically, uh, his little G string or whatever he was wearing came off, and he was the entirety of the match. He was putting his hands on his, what, in his groin, covering it up. I thought it was very hilarious, but Cardona didn't know what to do. But however, it took a radio silence to put away Sexy Eddie. But I don't think Sexy Eddie knew where he was at. But yeah, so I thought it was a very interesting way that the match went. Now our next match we have the Southern Psycho, Mance Warner taking on Ratty Daddy, Cole Radrick. Pretty good match. I would have assumed it would have been one of those big death matches, but no, they just brought chairs and tables to put you through pain. But it took a big DDT by Mance Warner to pick up the win. Next up, we have a very interesting six-man a trios match. We have McCray Martin teaming up with Casanova Productions, JT Producer, and Shani Hawk. They take on Yokai, Yoya, and Janai Kai. They team up with Tony Depp, and they calling it Depokai, I think. But I had a feeling that this match was gonna fall in favor of Martin and Casanova Productions because because we always talked about how what big of an a-hole Tony Deppen is. There was at some point near the end where things were not eye to eye between Yoya and Tony Deppen. Well, what's his name? Crya Martin gave him a spinning heel kick right into Tony Deppen, but Yoya didn't do a thing. He just walked off. So basically, it's like, screw that. I'm out of here. So he gave himself a pretty good win. Next up, we have Lufisto taking on Rina Yamashita. I have to say, another good match. I was impressed by this one because it was a total. It's a shame it's not the Ultraviolent title on the line, but however, Lufisto really put up a good fight until Rina applied the Splash Mountain. 1, 2, 3, just like that. Next up, we got Jack Cartwheel versus Gringo Loco. Excuse me. Pretty good match. Gringo Loco, as you know, the base god. He seems like he could try to counter a good every move that Jack Cartwheel could do, but however, there were some good moments with Jack Cartwheel. I mean, when he did some sort of flip or whatever on the outside of the ring and took down Gringo Loco, but once again, Gringo Loco surprised everybody when he applied another pinfall, just like that. Now, our next match, we have a three-way tag match, a three-way trios match. We have TDT teaming up with Green Phantom versus Los Macizos and Jimmy Lloyd versus Bussy and Sawyer Wreck. Another good match. I wasn't too sure how this is going to go, but however, it was, of course, the Zack Ryder on to Cyclops that picked up the win. Pick up the win on Cyclops on top of the table. 1, 2, 3, it's over. Now our main event is the GCW World Title match. Mike Bailey versus Mark Styles. Oh man, this match went all the way to brutality, taking out every thing out. However, they removed the pads out of the boards of the ring. They took it way too far than you wouldn't imagine. I mean, Masha would do anything to hurt Mike Bailey, and same thing with Mike Bailey, but nothing worked in any possible moment. However, it was Masha with a chokehold, like right on top of an opening gap of the ring. You know how when you're being hanged, there's no feeling in your body, you're trying to struggle, but Mike Bailey had no other choice but to tap. This was Masha's first victory as a champion, but we'll see who'll be the next challenger. From then on, let's just move forward to our next and final review, which is AEW Dark Elevation. Okay, AEW Dark Elevation. Opening match, we have Sky Blue taking on TFA. I don't know who she is, but I can tell you this match ended with a Sunstuff flip by Sky Blue, who, as you know, continued to impress us, even though she hasn't got one of the bigger matches just yet. But we do know she will make it there when the time is right. But we continue to support her. Next up, we got Jake Hager taking on Adam Knight. Uh, this match was ended up with, of course, Jake Hager winning when he applied. I'm not sure if it's like a Vader bomb type move, but it was effective. Of course, he wears that dumb hat of his that he likes so much, but that's how it is. Next up, we got Your Royal Highness the Queen, Emi Sakura taking on Zoe Zager. Uh, this one, you probably would have guessed this match ended with her, but surprisingly, she did not apply the moonsault as we've been seeing her doing on many occasions. But this time, she applied a submission. As you guys know, there's like the Romero special where you lift up the person with your hands and your feet, try to lock them up. Well, instead, she pulled off something similar. She grabbed her by the neck and forced her to tap out while she's doing that. I never seen a move like that, but it was very impressive. Next up, we got Brandon Cutler taking on Jason uh, Geiger. I thought this match was really interesting because you can see that Brandon Cutler is nothing but a total stooge, but the idiot actually picked up the win without even realizing he picked up the win. So when he made a pinfall on Geiger, I thought it was so funny. But yeah, but now anyway, our next match we have Isaiah Cassidy, Matt Hardy, and Ethan Page, along with Stokey Hathaway, taking on uh, Massey Damage, Mo Jabari, and Sebastian Wolf. This match pretty good with the teamwork between Isaiah, Ethan, and Matt. When, of course, since they're in Canada, it's Ethan's country. He actually applied the Ego's Edge on Jabari and picked up the win. However, Stokey Hathaway put Jabari in a chokehold to send a direct message to Hook. So we'll see how that plays out. Next up, we got Top Flight, Dante and Darius Martin taking on Michael Allen, Richard Clark. Yes, that's the name of the opponent. His tag partner is Sean Moore. You probably can guess this match ended with, of course, by Top Flight. He did like I don't know exactly what Dante Martin did, but it was pretty impressive. So he picked up a good win. Not the greatest, but a good win. Next up, we got the ROH Women's World Title in a provision ground match. Athena versus Taylor. What's her name? Rising. Also pretty good match, but however ended with a crossface by Athena. We're still waiting on the word Anya Sakasaki, but we'll see what happens then. Next up, we got Natural Limitless. Keith Lee and Dustin Rhodes taking on Levi Knight and Jesse V. But this match ended by pinfall by Dustin Rhodes to by Levi, and it was over right from there. Now our main event, we have Ari Daivari and Tony Nese taking on Dark Order's Silver and Reynolds. I thought this match was pretty good because we like the combination of Dark Order. Not to mention, Dark Order does have a little bit of standing in Canada because it's the home of Evil Uno and the return of Stu Grayson. but as always, it was the combination to the jackknife that led to their win. Pretty impressive, not gonna lie. So I think that's pretty much it right now with AEW Dark Elevation. Let's move on with some news updates. Okay, welcome to our news updates. So let's get started now. As you know, we're getting closer and closer to WrestleCon. Some interesting names have been popping up. Now, there are some names that I might have missed that I failed to mention or announce who's going to be involved. So here they are. There's some names I may not recognize. There's Charlie Jenkins. I don't know who he is. Abram Risen. I don't know who he is either. But we do have some names we may familiarize. We got the guys from DDT. We got Maho, Shumna Katsumata, Saki Akai, and of course, the Pheromones are going to be there. So if you guys remember, they're going to be here for GCW versus DDT and the DDT event they're going to have as well. We do have, of course, Rio 1 will be making an appearance too. So is this other guy named Josh Chernoff. But however, more names for the Tokyo Pro Wrestling roster will be making an appearance. We have Rika Tatsumi, who are newly crowned International Princess Champion. We got Raku and now Kakuda. So I'm looking forward to see who else is going to show up. I know we got tons of names. Now, as you know, I mentioned Baka Gaijin and Friends Volume 4 that will be taking place in April. Well, they announced the match card for this particular show. We have Deathworm taking on Masai Takeda. Sayaka will be teaming up with Balinaki to take on Maho and Chiko Shikawa. And then finally, Rina Yamashita and Andrew Parker team up to take on CDK. And I think that's pretty much it. Wrestling Revolver is announced for the Mayhem for All event in May. El Fantasmo will be making his debut at Wrestling Revolver. Interesting developments. As you know, we talked about we're getting closer to WrestleMania week. The GCW Jimmy Lloyd Degeneration F has announced a 4-way tag match. Here's who we have. We got the East-West Express, Nick Wayne and Jordan Oliver. They take on the Best Bros, Mei Shiruga and Balinaki, versus Wasted Youth, Dylan McKay and Marcus Bass. And a team I'm not familiarized, don't know their names, but their team is called CPF. I don't know who they are. If you guys know who they are, please tell me who they are and leave a comment down below or send me a link of any matches of them. I'm not familiar, but I have to say I'm happy for this match because the Best Bros are in it. Now, as you know, some people don't like the idea of former WWE wrestlers heading to AEW. However, one particular wrestler has announced that she is considering going to AEW, and that person is Nia Jax. Now, if you guys remember, Nia Jax did make her appearance in the World Rumble. As you know, she was released last year, so it was very unusual, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. Now, I know some people may not like it. You probably go like, no, we don't want to see another WWE person in AEW. It's a load of horse crap. I get it, guys, but that's not up to us. That is up to the wrestlers if they want to go or not. But that's how it goes. Now, interesting developments have recently took place with DDT. One of them has announced for their big event called the Mega Max Bump 2023 in Yokohama on May 3rd. 2 debuts will be making. One of them, this one is Rain Livercursey, I think. She's a female wrestler out of Pro Wrestling Eve. However, she is the niece of the late drummer of Iron Maiden, Clive Blur. If you guys aren't big fans of Iron Maiden like I am, I'm a big Iron Maiden fan. I did not know that Clive's niece was a wrestler, but it's interesting, so she'll be making her presence known in DDT. However, the next one, another debut heading to DDT also in May, is none other than, of course, the 17-year-old supernova himself, Nick Wayne. So he's announced to be there too. From my understanding, Konosuke Takeshita made the recommendations to have him go to DDT. And I think I can see the reason, because if you guys know this, Konosuke, Konosuke Takeshita was 16 years old when he started. I think he sees himself a little bit like he sees himself in Nick Wayne, like, hey, I used to be your age, you know, but it would make sense. But I wouldn't be surprised. Now, our final update in DDT. If you guys know this, they had this program called DDT, DDT, which is like, think of it as where, they have the young boys training, but the wrestlers are wearing masks. So two of them already announced they're graduating. So the boss, Shinjiro Takagi, gave them the option either to remove the mask or leave it on. The first person was El Unicorn. He removed his mask, and it turns out to be a guy named Uni. I don't know who this guy is, but that's. But as for the other person, Illusion, he actually decided to stay with the mask. I have to say it's kind of interesting, but no one's forcing him to do anything. But it's so basically they're going to be moving up the ladder more with DDT. So this is more like a program for the younger wrestlers. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. What we have for our news updates. Anything else? I think it's time to call it a day. Okay, hope everybody enjoys this episode. Before I go, if you guys have the Stardom World, you may have noticed what's been going on. None of the updates for the recent events from Stardom has been uploaded. If you guys know this, there's two different types. There's like the standard regular one in Japan, and then there's the ones that have been translated for the English people, for people to speak English. That has not been uploaded, so I don't know what's going on in that department. This guy named Glorious Loyal, he actually who has spoken about this on Twitter, is still unclear about that. But I don't know what's going on in that. So just letting you guys know, if the reason I haven't done a Stardom review is because that hasn't been uploaded yet. So I'll be doing it if some point that starts up, then I'll start doing it. I'm probably going to be way behind on Stardom, but I'll make that as a priority to many of you guys, my subscribers, since I know some of you may like the Stardom stuff I've been reviewing. But yeah, but coming up, as you know, we have Tuesday Wrestling. Not only we're going to have NWA Power, AEW Dark, and NXT, we also got the finals of the New Japan Cup. Who will walk out as the winner to head to face Kazuchika Okada? Will it be David Finlay or, of course, Sanada? So we'll find out soon enough. So stand by for that particular episode. If there's anything else I'll be throwing, I'll be making a short video of that soon. But right now, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. Mwah. Damn cat. And have a nice day. Bang.